Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the feat Piercer.
Stab, stab. You've achieved a penetrating precision in combat, granting you the following benefits. Increase your strength index by 1 to max 20. Love it. No notes. To a minimum now of a 2. Cannot get any worse than this. It does get better. Once up per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack that deals piercing damage, you can re-roll one of the attack's damage dice and must use the new roll. Sure, I'm into it. Then, when you score a crit that deals piercing damage to a creature, you can roll one additional damage die when determining the extra piercing damage that it takes. Cool. I like it. Do you like it?
No. I don't know.
You don't like Piercer?
Really? I mean, you get to re-roll one die. I mean, all right, yeah, all right. First of all, ability score increase. Okay, fine.
Great floor. Good reason to start with the 17.
Yeah. The other stuff, though, I'm not super impressed with at all. I mean, you get to re-roll one die, and then you take the new roll.
Oh, no, it is one per turn. You're right.
One per turn. That's not a lot, and you have the chance of getting worse than you because you have to take the new roll. You don't take the better of the two.
Sure.
That feels like they could have just given you that.
I agree.
So I'm not huge on that because I mean the one die isn't going to make a huge difference. I'm trying to think of any case it would, and
let's say you're using a lance and you roll a 1 and you're like, I'd rather not because I have a d12 lance. I'd rather be higher than a 1. This is a way to say I don't roll 1s on my lances most of the time anymore. So that's, sure.
Something. But I feel like as you get in the higher tiers of play, I mean, the weapon damage roll is going to matter less and less, and especially if you have multiple dice involved.
So here's what I will give this credit to. So the Piercer works in 2 specific builds, and that's where I think it is most interesting. So piercing damage applies to 2 very important types of weapons. Pole arms, things that have reach and are two-handed. So those builds that would be building things like Sentinel, that would be building Polearm Master stuff, this can be a consideration for an extra feat, specifically like you prefaced, if you're using the ability score bump. It also works alongside longbows. That's the other really, really big one that this opens up to. So let's say you're at a table where Sharpshooter is banned and you want to empower your bow. This is about all you get.
If you're at a table where Sharpshooter is banned, that's not the world I want to live in.
I've banned Sharpshooter at my own tables before. I ran a game where it was such a central focus that the next time all of our players got together to do a new campaign, I was like, all right, we did the Sharpshooter thing. It's off the table this time. We've seen what it does. I don't like the way that I have to play around it. I know a lot of my players didn't enjoy everyone crowding around Bandon while he just took a longbow out and our Bard help actioned him until everything within 300 feet of him was dead. It wasn't a particularly compelling experience for most of the game. And whenever it was working, it was so busted that it was just like, I don't want to deal with this right now. I'm like a mediocre experienced DM. This is my 3rd campaign ever. I don't want to deal with it. So I don't fault people for banning it if people have had the opportunity to have that experience. I don't think it's really that much of an issue to ban things like it for the general reference. That does, I think, because it's such a powerful feat, elevate this feat is the bannability of Sharpshooter. So
all right. Well, for the purposes of this discussion,
sure, all feats on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you have Sharpshooter, this matters even less.
Yeah, but this is like the feat you pick up at, whenever you max out your decks and got nothing else to take. And that's fine.
There's always something else to take. You take
Not true.
Tough. What are you talking about?
If I have a longbow, am I ever taking the tough feat?
Over this, maybe.
Certainly not. This gives me so at minimum, you're jumping over the last bit, which is whenever you crit, it deals a bonus weapon die of damage. That's to every single crit, and the upper when you're a fighter making 4 attacks. That's a lot. There are crit fishing builds that'll care about that extra damage, especially if you're trying to crit fish with a longbow. Like you're not crit fishing with a greatsword, so you're not doing super busted things, but it's perfectly reasonable. I don't hate attacking with advantage with a longbow and getting an extra D8 of damage every single time I crit and being able to reroll one of them. All that comes together to be entirely fine. Is it busto? Certainly not. But is it fine? Yeah, it's fine.
I don't know. Maybe I just have to see it in action or something, or you tally up the amount of extra damage this is giving you. But I feel like it's not much. I feel like it's a less than fine, less than what I want out of a feat.
I will.
But
So
that
I'll give you
said,
this.
it's you get the ability score increase, so that's something.
That's a major component as to why you would take this. If you're not getting an odd to an even with this, this is unusable. You're absolutely right. Like the 2 lines of text, the bonus to crits, plus the damage reroll add up to way less damage than a sharpshooter is giving you, right? Like we have to remember this thing's competition are things that are utterly broken, that are crack the game in half. I think this compares actually pretty well to the Crusher feat. I think that people way overhype Crusher. I don't think it's that good. I think it's fine. I think it's around as good as Piercer is, honestly, where you have the ability to knock something 5 feet away from you. Sure, it has the exact same crit text, where if you crit something, I'm sorry, Crusher's crit text lets things have advantage on hitting. This crit text lets you do more damage. I think that those are side grades to each other. They're both entirely reasonable. They're on different builds, different kinds of characters want them, depending on, what they're doing. This has a dex bump, which means it can go on characters that are using rapiers too. It goes on characters that are, going with a light armor plus high AC, like light weapon based builds. All of that makes it more takeable on a lot of those kinds of options. But in the grand scheme of the different damage type feats, I don't think this is anywhere close to unusable. I think this is, again, if I'm playing a sharpshooter, this is the feat I'm taking whenever I'm done with my dex score, where I'm like, okay, I got my +5 dex, I got sharpshooter already, great. I guess I'm just taking Piercer now.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the list of feats that also give you dex bumps, but I'd probably take most of them over this. I
There aren't many.
no, I mean, I don't know what they are offhand,
That's fair.
but I mean, one die just does not excite me.
It's 1 die per turn, and
One die per turn, yeah, that's true, but
I do think the feeling of turning a 1 into an 8 is a very high. You're often going to also turn like 1s into 3s, and that's not that high of a high. The average damage you're getting per round isn't particularly high. The damage bump when it matters in a round is very relevant. So like we talk a lot about average damage per round. We talk a lot about the context of, over the course of a game, how much extra damage does this totally add to your sheet. There are moments where bad results lead to bad outcomes in the totality of a fight, right? So if we're looking at a moment where something's got like around 10 hit points, and you fire off your bow at it, and you do 7 damage with a 2 on the die, you have an opportunity now with this feat to say, this has to die. I'm going to re-roll this die, and I need to roll a 5 or higher. And it's a big energy moment. Everyone gets excited, and you roll the die, and you have a real opportunity to kill it. In the instance where it never dies there, in the instance where, like, even with sharpshooter, let's say you were doing 15 damage to it with the sharpshooter, you need 20 to kill it. Getting the opportunity to bump that damage up and change the creature from having an extra action to not having an extra action is a big cinematic moment. It's a moment where the benefit of dice in the damage dealt in the moment matters a lot, even if the damage as the grand scheme of the game isn't affected that much. That is a relevant element of these kinds of features. And while, again, the grander scope math, if we were wailing against a target dummy for 3.5 years, this is adding very little damage. In the instance where the damage really matters, this is a little bit of extra bump that can feel good to play with. It isn't backbreaking. This isn't a Munchkin build. This isn't breaking on emote. Again, you've heard my use case for it is it's what I take after I've done like 4 ASIs, and like I take out an ability score over this basically every single time, but it's already not, if it's even. But if I'm finally at the end of the road and I've got nothing else to take, this is kind of what I'm happy to pick up.
I mean, there's a lot of feats out there.
Sure. I think on the characters that are dedicated to it, like dedicated to using a bow, dedicated to using polearms. Polearms a lot harder because you have Sentinel and Polearm Master and one a high con, so like you're definitely right on those sheets. Tough is way better than this. And I say way better. It's probably better than this in a lot of instances. But there aren't a lot of options that add plus dex. So you have like there are a lot of racial specific ones. Gunner is one that you could consider taking that requires more variance than normal. There aren't a ton. Moderately armored is fine, I guess. Like most of the dex-based bumps aren't good, which is good because dex is a really cracked stat. So that's nice at least.
If you're doing like a Sentinel Polearm Master thing, I mean, to do that well, you're probably eating up a lot of feats already.
Yeah, this is like the feat you take at like 20th level whenever you run out of things to do. So yeah, it's not happening on that
level. All right, at 20th level, how much do you really care about that one die roll?
No, not even a little bit. Again, it bumping your crits is cute. It's nice. I'm not here. This is a weird juxtaposition. I'm definitely not saying this is a 10 out of 10 banger feat. I'm nowhere close to that. But you're like, this is utterly unusable. And it's not. It's fine. I think if you're at a table that's not power gaming and you take this as your first feat, you'll be like, yeah, okay, it's whatever. It's fine.
It doesn't excite me. Like I'm thinking, well, in the case where I don't, my dex is already maxed out,
Mhm.
or like or no, not maxed out, whatever.
It's 20 decks. You got the 20 dex score.
Well, no, that's not what because then I naturally wouldn't take this. But
Sure. Let's say you do 19 decks.
all right, yeah, I'd probably just like boost my wisdom or something I don't need instead of taking this.
I definitely take this over bumping a stat I don't care about. I really think you're not giving any credence to the re-rolling of 1s and 2s, and there is genuine benefit to that. And I also think you're giving any credence to doing an extra weapon die whenever you crit, and that's going from 2d8 to 3d8 on things like a longbow is great. Like, why not have the extra damage? It's just sitting right there.
Yeah, maybe the crit thing, maybe, but a crit already does so much extra. Like just this one little die.
It's
I don't think
50% damage bump if you don't have sharpshooter. If you do have sharpshooter, it's a lot less than that of a damage bump. But that's because sharpshooter's cracked in half, not because weapons don't,
Yeah. Uh but yeah, the other thing you're talking about the cinematic experience where like that extra 2 points kills the big bad. How often is that happening?
more than you'd think.
Okay, more than I think, and that's fair.
Yeah.
I've already said this might make more of a difference than I'm giving it credit for. Because I'm pulling this out of the top of my head. I don't know.
I think a lot of fights having an opportunity. There's something to be said, like, so let's say you're even in a situation where you know how much HP someone has left, or you think you know how much HP something has left, and you need to do as much damage as possible. This will often happen. We've seen like Dimension 20, Brendan Lee Mulligan will like announce DCs before the roll, be like, okay, Box of Doom, you need to roll at least a 17 or whatever. This thing's got at least this much HP. You have to do this much damage to make the roll feel that much more cinematic. It's been kind of a more pop culture thing that's been kind of grown into happening. And it will lead to moments where you'll roll the dice and you'll go, this isn't good enough. Having an opportunity to say, we have a second shot to make it good enough is great. It also does that alongside turning all of your 1s and 2s into usually better results on lances in particular, like going from a 1 to a 2 to an 8+ is a lot more common on the larger dice sizes. If you're a person that's playing a amount of combat and you want to make your lance better, this is one of the few feats in the game that empower your lance in a meaningful way. Those are all little upsides the Piercer has.
A lance I could see. Maybe a longbow.
D8s are still going from 2 to 6, 2 to 5 is great damage bump in the moment. There's also something to be said for it's the reason I like Great Weapon Master so much. The Great Weapon fighting style. I hate whenever I do 5 damage at first level with rolling 2 1s. Having an opportunity to shift that up feels so much better. I love the feeling of not wasting turns, and this gives you more moments to feel like you aren't wasting turns. Big upside to me.
Just not enough for me.
That's fair.
I'm greedy.
This game's been poisoned by Great Weapon Master and Sentinel and Sharpshooters because they're like so much clearly better than everything else that's available that mediocre feats look terrible. And I get it because, like I said, if you're building for remotely optimization, you never put this on your sheet if you can help it. But if you do want to like squeeze a little bit extra juice in there and you're guaranteed using a longbow, like let's say you're starting with the 17 and variant human for sharpshooter, you can then jump. Your first ASI gives you Piercer and a +1 dex. All of a sudden now you have 2 feats at 4th level with sharpshooter with the +4 to hit. All that comes together really easily by making your damage all that much better for the rest of the game. It seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, for me, like I'd probably just pick alert or observant or something.
And then you won't be as good in combat. You will be objectively worse in combat than the character with Piercer will be.
Yeah, but I'll go first and kill him.
Sure. I am very low on both alert and observant, but for different reasons. We've talked about them before, I'm sure.
Have we covered those yet?
We've definitely covered alert. Starts with A. I think we did these alphabetically, right?
No, not the feats. No, I just kind of pick them willy-nilly according to what I've got art prepared for.
That's fair. But listen, if we've talked about alert or observant, go watch those videos. I usually stand by my stances on these kinds of things. Observant can be miserable. Alert is almost a non-feature. So,
all right,
this is not almost a non-feature. This is a 3. Honestly, it's not that bad. If Sharpshooter didn't exist, I'd take it a lot more eagerly on ranged characters because literally no other bow feats exist. So, like, you know, if you don't want to play with Sharpshooter because you find it to be overbearing, if you're at a table with new players and you are an experienced player and want to take a feat that isn't going to wildly warp the game around you, I can recommend Piercer. It gives you cute little options, gives you opportunities to do different things in combat, gives you a +1 dex. The floor is very high.
Yeah, 2 for me. I just not impressed with it. Not mad, just disappointed. All right, that was Piercer. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think. Sam and I disagreed on this one. We welcome your comments. Let us know in the comment section below, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.